Hello, and welcome to the Authentically Elisa podcast, Unmasking Your True Self. I'm Elisa Bogarts, your guide on this journey to discovering the most genuine version of yourself. Each episode is a step towards unveiling the incredible power that lies within you as we strip away all the shoulds and shine a light on the coulds. Together we'll explore the path of self-empowerment, self-confidence, and the courage to be unapologetically you. Thank you for being here. So let's dive into today's episode. Today, we're going to be talking about this amazing woman's story and how she has been able to remain authentic through so much diversity in her amazing story that she had. So my amazing guest today is Drocella Mugorewera, and she is a diversity consultant. And she's the founder of Diversity in Action Global Movement and helps employers stop the costly cycle of hiring and rehiring. She empowers companies to eliminate turnover, save money, and create loyal brand ambassadors, which all companies need. And her proven strategies build sustainable workplaces where employees thrive, driving long-term success and retention. Welcome, Drocella. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you, Elisa. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we've sort of been in the same kind of like circles and like seen each other in lots of different meetings. And then we were on another podcast together and I heard her amazing story again. It's like, I must have you on the show. So yeah, tell us a bit about your story and share it with us.
Thank you again, Elisa, and thank you for creating this platform. I am originally from Rwanda. Unfortunately, I had to flee that country, which I lived in for more than 40 years, to become a refugee. Imagine fleeing your country because of persecution and oppression with no direction. Imagine not talking to your family for a year and not seeing your children for 2 years. My youngest daughter was 12 years old, and this is the time she wanted her mom close by. I was angry sometimes, frustrated, and disoriented. One time my life was in the hands of two strange men who could have raped me, who could have killed me, but I did trust God. So faith is my number one superpower. And the second one is networking, and those superpowers really are the pillars of moving from a survivor to a creator to a thriving woman I am today. And I'm grateful that after 2 years, America facilitated the family reunification through the U.S. refugee program. And I'm grateful also for all the volunteers who did everything they could so I can integrate in this country. Of course, first step were not easy. I was hoping to have a good job as a former parliamentarian, consultant, and member of government, but it was not that way. And I was grateful for the first job I did get as a sales associate and production associate in Goodwill Industries for $6.55 an hour. And then I moved up to becoming an executive director for the agency that welcomed me in 2009. So November 2015, this is where I became the director. And I served there 6.5 years. So I had an opportunity to show how refugees are a blessing and not a burden. They are bringing social, cultural, and economic values to our communities. And this is one of the things and areas I am very active in to show the value and the contribution of refugees and immigrants. And then one time when I was finishing that career of being an executive, I felt a call to work with police, law enforcement, and then African American. And then this is where I did go to search for a mentor who will help me to put together my vision and mission. And this is where the Diversity Trust Builder began. So I started to build this global movement, Diversity in Action. because I do believe in everybody's capacity to make a difference. We are all talented. We have different skills, perspective, and experience that do want nobody being left behind. So I was a politician and uh, being an influencer is something I always wanted, and I have to always figure out how can I be that influencer and change maker. And I think no matter the situation I was in, I am an advocate for justice, and I always will do it until I die.
Wow. Yeah. So many things in your story. Like even when you first talked about, those two men that were strangers that could have done whatever they wanted to me, I was like, immediately went into terror in my head. And so glad that that didn't happen and that you were safe. And yeah, and just talking about how, you know, because well, at least I assume I haven't actually been to Rwanda, or even Africa, but I have, lived abroad and traveled many countries, and knowing that they're so different. And so definitely moving from one to the other is not easy. And I can't imagine how incredibly not easy that was, because the cultures, I'm assuming, from Africa to the States are very, very different. So that must have been a huge shift that you had to make.
Yes, and adjustment, even if I traveled once in America, and gratefully I spoke some English. And that was a big help. One of the friends say we have to remember to be grateful for the languages we speak. And I think God prepared me to this journey because when I was younger, I went to college, learned Russian, and I was working in French. And then I went to English classes for a few hours evening time. So when we had genocide in 1994, I had intermediate level. So I never thought that I would be a refugee in a English speaking country. So, but I happened to adapt and start to create a new life and new friends, new families because I lost everything before.
Yeah, basically starting from scratch. And it looked like also starting from scratch with the career that they decided to put you on when you kind of came with
Yeah.
the job that, of course, you're very grateful to even have a job at 6.55 an hour. Wow. That must have been hard to survive on.
Yes, and I remember also because I was saying, God, remove all the barriers. So I met my children and my husband. Once again, I was thinking I have to build my resilient muscles so I can provide for the family. So I did work sometimes two jobs. I did 8 to 5, and then after I took 1 hour and I went to work until midnight. So, and sometimes I did 14 hours shift, so I can work hardly to get ready when my family will come. And I'm glad I did because when they came, the five of them went to school, and my husband went back to school. So I was the pillar of providing income for my family. And I learned the hard way. And when I remember also people I'm grateful for are the ones who I had to build my credit score. So in my culture, when you don't owe money to a bank, you are good. But here you have to own money to have a good credit. That was culturally different too. So I remember one family when I had to buy a car, and I said, "Can you co-sign for me?" And there are many parents even who do not co-sign for their children. And they co-signed twice because we bought one car when they came all so we can fit in and drive them to school. And then when they started to graduate, buying one car to one child, the five children we had. So and then we continued to support each other that way. So, and I'm grateful that people trust me as a stranger. And I remembered that my mother used to say, be kind because you meet kindness ahead. And I do still go by her words. I am a kind person and I will uh, sow kindness wherever I go.
Oh, I love that. be kind and you will find kindness ahead. It's so true. It's all about that. Um, yeah, like the energies, it's for the frequency or whatever you sort of put out will come back to you, or you'll attract more of that in your life. And oh, well, that's a wonderful that she said that to you, and it's something that really stuck, and therefore you were able to live that, and it came back to you, which is awesome. And when you throughout this, as you were everything that was happening back there and the genocide and then becoming a refugee and moving back or moving to the States and then starting as this sort of sales associate and having to work two jobs, were you able to remain authentic sort of like throughout this journey and or do you feel that you were truly or maybe you couldn't truly shine through your true authentic self like
I remained authentic. No, people call me the woman of faith, and I do not know where I would be without that. And I remember the second day, the night I arrived in America, because I was hiding for 9 months without going to church. I did
Mhm.
ask, where is the Catholic Church? That is the first ask I did. And then I went, they took me the morning to church, and then I did confession and communion. It was like revive, revive again, and having like a shower. This is how I felt. And by
Mhm.
practicing faith, I also had to be kind to people who were not kind to me, because some people will ask, "Why are you here?" And one of the reasons also I became a director of the agency that welcomed me is one, I wanted to share the stories of refugees, because there was a lot of rhetoric, as it is still the same, like today, about refugees. And I want to remind and tell the audience that America committed to protect refugees. There is a Refugee Act that uh, America committed also to the Refugee Convention. And these are the things you don't hear a lot. So I wanted to, even if it was hard, to be again public, because I used to be a public figure, and those fears with refugees, and myself, future self told me, how long can you hide? And then I had to go out and advocate for refugees, sharing my story and stories of refugees. And I'm grateful that many people did change the mind. And then we were working with many volunteers, and then I did explain why people are here, what kind of the support they need, but also what their contribution they are bringing to the community. And I did create the first fundraising department ever since the agency was created in 1982. They never had a fundraising department, even though the program was the public and private partnership. And I tell you, I left them with $100,000 in the first reserve fund ever. So
Wow.
I did mobilize the support, telling the stories, because we have to humanize the program. The refugee program is a humanitarian program. It's not a political program. And I always want to fight for justice. And this is why I'm here, because I did find also fight for justice. I like when people agree on something to do that. And what also was frustrating is that I was going to people to tell, oh, we are here, come and help. I didn't see the big movement to come to me. So, and I was saying, people who have, for example, the motto of welcoming the stranger, what do they do now? And this is what in the book, Leaders with the Heart, when I write a chapter, I say to faith-based communities who are predominantly those who are supporting the refugee community, that they have the power they are not using enough.
Mm.
So yeah, it was up and down, but I tried to navigate around people uh, to try to say, hey, this is your feelings, and this is your values. Stand for your values. And also, I want to tell people who have a scarcity mindset that refugees are coming to take. There is enough for everyone. in this
Mhm.
world. And there is enough for America. There is enough for veterans. There is enough for disabled people. There is enough for people with mental health. There is enough for everyone. But instead of focusing on helping each other as a community, you can see divisions. And this is why I pro unity. And one of the sub pillars of my diversity in action system is unity. So I want to help people to be unified and to help each other and to support each other and champion each other.
Wow. Yeah, that's so amazing. It's so true. We can be uh so divided or even like selfish in some ways or not really think about that and have that unity and know that there's a place for everyone, there's enough for everyone, and it all is like this amazing ecosystem that works together and we need all the pieces of it. So therefore, we should unite together and be grateful for every level of it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Changing the narrative, as you said, I am one of the leaders who are helping to change the narrative because what you hear in the news is most of the time not true.
Right.
Like the myth of refugees being a threat. They are the most vetted people in coming to United States. When I was traveling to come here on a diplomatic passport, when I became a refugee, I had to go through the same screening process like any other refugee. And many people live even 25 years in refugee camp without processing the resettlement program. So there is a tiny, tiny population of refugees who are being resettled in a third country like the United States of America.
Right. Yeah. That's it. And the thing sometimes there's these things happening that we don't even realize, right? And that journey is actually quite difficult. And there is a whole vetting process. Um, so being where you are now, what does authenticity mean to you and how do you live your authentic self now?
Authenticity is crucial because we are born with greatness and everybody has what a light they can shine upon the world. Everybody has the skills, the wisdom they can share and shine. So for me, authenticity is very crucial. And this is what I want the companies to respect that authenticity in every employee, every team member, every client, because being authentic self is very necessary. And this is how when we are different, but our differences are ingredients for our growth. So wherever I am, I try to be authentic. And where people, this is why for me, as an immigrant, where people talk about assimilation, I say no, it's not the right word to use. I do talk about integration because I want to keep my African values and then embrace the new good values in America. I cannot assimilate everything. So this is what I have been, and this is why I do what I do now as a diversity consultant, as somebody who is helping people who are transitioning from one life to another, being in the leadership or who are confused and they don't know what to do. So we can build on what is in us, the values we have in us, and live my values. And I want other people to live their values. So in any situation where I am, I try to be authentic self and I want to respect other people. And also what I learned is about communication and how I do also respect others and their ideas is asking questions.
Hmm.
If you don't understand, ask questions. So this is how I preserve me being authentic. And this is why I told you I will fight for justice until I die.
Yeah, and so getting into what you do now. talk about, I mean, I think you kind of already have sort of touched on it, but, and sort of your journey into it, but how you kind of, why how you got into this field of work and why you're so passionate about it. And, specifically in your company, Diversity in Action.
So, based on my story, I am here because I was persecuted because of my ideas. And when I came
Wow.
here, I felt like I was behind because some people see me as a taker, not a contributor. And I know
Mhm.
in many companies also employees are left behind because of the old fashion of governing employees. The top down is no longer working. So
Nope.
I do value the communication, the uh, generosity, active listening to people so they can feel like they are included. Sometimes when you see they contribute to an organization, the organization will become successful, but the voices of those contributors are not heard enough. They want every voice, every talent, every skill, and every experience and perspective be considered as an ingredient of growth. So I'm helping companies to build growth through championing diversity. And people have not to be afraid of diversity because we are born diverse. We are designed diverse. How many thoughts do you have since you were out this morning? Can you count them?
Oh my God. So many.
So I want to make sure that nobody is left behind. And this is what I'm teaching. And I help companies also to leverage those resources because now I was reading that for the past year, $900 billion well lost because of employee turnover. And we can save that
Wow.
money if we
Mhm.
treat people right, if we listen, and then we give people what they want. I think you read the book, How to Influence and Influence People.
No.
It's just give them what they want. So imagine when we get to the level where the employers are giving to employees what they want, and the employees are giving to employers what they want, and they have a win-win situation. That win-win situation is what we have to uh, work towards to in any situation because you have to please your counterpart, being a team member, being a neighbor, being a collaborator, being a client. So, yeah, this is how I am helping them because the money they are losing on hiring and the hiring can be used to
Ugh.
serve the community and to serve the employees and giving them good benefits. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah,
mm,
exactly. Yeah, I was thinking about that I just love what you were saying about how you're trying to, help people and that no one gets left behind and really that listening. I remember I worked in this company and the sort of the hands changed. So like the CEO had left and a new guy, well, he was working it, so he got promoted. And so he was doing sort of like kind of like lunch talk things where he would be in like the boardroom and he could come and like as a group and talk about stuff. And he asked, I can't even remember what the question was, but he asked something. And he obviously only wanted the positive, nice answer that like he's fantastic and everything's great. And I'm
mm,
not the one, I am one to call out the elephant in a room if I see it, or to,
mm,
if I can drum up the courage to actually speak my truth. And I remember at one point he said something and I was like, to me, it was just blatant that this wasn't the way that it was. And so I said something. And in the meeting, he's kind of like accepted it and we sort of, continued on or whatever. But then afterwards, he came to my desk and was like, I didn't like what you said. You can't say stuff like that. And he basically shut me down. And I just, so it's like it's so interesting that um how you were talking about active listening and giving people what they want and like working in this unity and all of that, where, I think in many organizations people probably pretend to and say, oh, yeah, well, I asked the questions and sure, I listened, but actually, they, in actual fact, they're not necessarily listening, or if they don't like what they hear, then there could be trouble. So, yeah, I'm so
and
grateful for what you do. Mhm.
thank you for sharing that. And then people will say, "Oh, we have a good feedback." policy, but they are not open to feedback. And this is
No.
what I ask people to walk the talk. And if we have those many leaders who walk the talk, the world would be different, you know, and we have to hold them accountable. And this is, I am here because I did hold people accountable. So if we have an agreement, let us do what each side committed to. And this is why the first pillar of my diversity in action system is declaring the commitment. People have to know why diversity matter for your organization and how you will materialize it. Not just say, hey, we are pro diversity, but how? And this is what the companies I help will develop their diversity statements, and I give them some words to frame their statement because you cannot attract people if you are not attractive. So your uh, diversity commitment and statement is the way to attract people like this.
Yeah, and then you're right. Then they gotta actually walk the talk, right? Just having it
Uh-huh.
that mean that
Yeah.
yeah, I remember I've seen that in, and I think this was part of the story I shared when we were in that podcast the other week, and it was about like I remember finding myself in this meeting room once, and I looked around, and it was all white males over the age of 50. And it was like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, I hit their diversity quota right now, right? Because the company talked about, yes, we must have, we're diverse and this and that. And they had stats, but I really felt like it was just a numbers game. It was just something that they had to say that they were going to do. And then they were trying to hit it. And, but yeah, it was predominantly a white male dominated company. And I remember sitting there, yeah, and I think I was 31 or something. And, it was in England. So I was technically foreign. I am also of a mixed background. So I had did that Dakota and I was young and I was female. And I was like, wow, I get
Yeah.
all the things here in this one room. So I guess they passed the diversity thing by having me here. And I was like, so very interesting. So yeah, it actually is that
Yeah.
walking, actually doing it where I feel like um I think things are getting better in terms of diversity with companies, especially like in leadership roles and with women. Um, but yeah, there's still some companies that are not.
Yeah. And one of the things also is like when you're a company, you have to hire staff who are looking like the clientele you have. I
Mm.
remember when I was hired also, being an African American by myself, and some people would say, how do you learn? Yeah. But we did happen to have refugee voices on the board, also hire case managers who speaks languages because I serve people from 12 nationalities. So it's good to have people who are also speaking the language. And one of the things I help companies are to leverage language diversity for profit because
Oh.
sometimes you don't have people who are speaking the language. And I'm saying that working in the teaching in one language is not longer enough. If you pretend to have a diverse community, an inclusive community, you have to be able to communicate because communication is key for growth and for, social networking and things. And then I want company also to incentivize like people who want to learn other language so they can support foreign born people and to work as a team and be able to communicate and leverage the skills and talents those people have. So I encourage them to have an infrastructure where they can facilitate people to learn another language and then support people whose English, for example, is not the business or second language or third language, so they can learn the language. So I
Yeah, that's
think this
awesome.
is something you don't find many people advocating for. But as you
No.
did say, being authentic self, I speak 5 languages. I understand how even some people were hanging up on the phone on me, thinking that because they are not used to my accent. And one
Right.
of the things I say to people, I say, we all have an accent.
Yes.
I do try to understand every other person, and I want to respect reciprocity. I want people to be patient with me. I was working in a clinic with uh, doctors who's, for example, Patel. And then when I was saying it's Dr. Patel is available, can I book an appointment with you? They said, I need an American doctor. I said, she's an American. So sometimes people are also stereotyping us based on our names.
Yes,
But having another name, an unusual name, doesn't mean that you cannot be a good professional. So
exactly.
these are the things, you know, I educate people about, being empathetic, being welcoming. And one of the sub pillars also is welcome of my diversity. So everybody should feel welcome in any environment they are working in or they are working in.
Yeah, and I really feel like that's missing in so many places. So I'm just so grateful for you for your that you're trying to, spread that and get people to start thinking that way. Because even you're right, even like communication, listening, welcoming, and like creating a safe environment where people
Mm,
can feel like they can
mm.
speak. And I think that if you have that safe environment where you do feel welcomed and listened to, then your communication will be so different. So if you feel like you're in a bit of a hostile environment or you don't feel welcome or you don't feel safe and it's a bit toxic, you at least in my experience, I find that I respond not in my authentic self. I respond in a way where maybe I'm a bit angry or I'm defensive
Yeah,
or try and get my point across and no one's listening to me, so I'm gonna get louder and I just think that if at least I notice this as well just in life in general that if I encounter somebody who is um calm and kind, that just kind of brings out my calm and kindness, and then we have such a better communication because it's in this very respectful way and you're more open, where if it's that kind of toxic environment, you're not going to have good communication at all. And then, things just will get worse, I find.
yeah. I agree. I agree. And we are capable to do that. We are capable to listen. We are capable to create infrastructure. We are capable to be kind to each other and be respectful because this is what we teach our children. So, but if we don't practice it, so there is like a gap in our social communication life.
Hmm. There is indeed. Oh, well, this has been such a wonderful conversation. I'm so glad that we saw you the other week and that we just was like, yes, I just have to have you on this show. And there was just so many,
Yay!
yeah, I know. I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many amazing things that you said about talking about like, be kind and then the kindness will come back to you in the future and that we're all really born with greatness and we can all be kind and respectful. These things are all within us. So we really let them shine through and that, have this mindset where nobody's left behind and be welcoming and open to people and really active listening, and not just in your work environment, but I think in life as well. And, just going back to your story, I just feel like, no matter what we go through, we can always come home to ourselves. And that is our authentic selves. And, even whatever situations that we're in, we can always come home to ourselves and know that our beauty is there. And I think that when you're able to do that, um, you're able to find that sort of safety and security within yourself and be the person that you want to be.
Hmm.
So, Gisela, where can our listeners find you online?
Yes, and I want to share before we conclude one personal
Mhm.
quote.
Yeah.
I say that you can lose your material possessions and positions, and you can never lose yourself.
Mm.
So, no matter the situation you are in, you can rise up. You are resilient. So, keep moving and seek for help. I'm almost on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn, and people can find me there. And also, I have free gifts people can download on my website, drocella.com, Drocell.com, uh, .com. And I would like, when people connect and give feedback, I like this podcast. And
Mhm.
again, thank you for giving me the voice on your podcast.
Yes, exactly. And thank you for sharing your voice and being this advocate and really trying to change the narrative in this world. I really appreciate you for doing that and so grateful for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope it inspired you to live a more authentic life. I'd love your help in inspiring more people to live authentically. So please follow, rate, and leave a review so we can create a ripple effect of authenticity. Until next time, stay true to you, be bold, and thrive on your own terms. This is Elisa, signing off authentically.